Hi, and welcome to Coffee and Pearls, Wisdom for Catholic Moms. I'm Sterling, and today we're talking about The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And Darren Hardy's mentor was Jim Rohn, and we talked about him a couple weeks ago. And I love that when I read this book, I could kind of feel Jim's spirit coming through it too. This book is fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and it's a pretty short read. It's pretty quick to read, so I would actually encourage you ladies to pick this up and read it. But what it did for me was it really changed my impression of creating new habits in my life. And so the whole point of the compound effect is that you can make small changes over time and not see any difference in your life. But if you stick to it and you keep making those changes, you're going to see very big differences, either positively if they're good changes or negatively if they're bad in your life. And so he gives the example of three guys, and one of them decides he wants to get into shape. And so he cuts out a few things, eating things that he's been eating, bad food, and he starts exercising just a little bit. And the middle guy doesn't do anything. He stays exactly the same as he has been. And then the third guy, he has some parties at his house, he drinks a little bit, he eats some junk food. And so it follows these guys, and at the end of 2 years, the guy who's been trying to make good habits looks fantastic. He feels great, his wife is happy about him, and he's got a lot of self-esteem. The second guy, nothing changes. He's just kind of hanging out there in the middle. And the third guy, who's been drinking and eating and not exercising, he packs on some pounds and he's feeling kind of crummy about himself, and his attitude really dives, and so he's not doing as well at work. And Darren's point about this is the changes in the three guys, the differences are very, very small. And this is the first quote that I wanted to pull out of his book regarding these three guys. At the end of 10 months, we still can't see noticeable changes in any of their lives. It's not until we get to the end of the 18th month that even the slightest differences are measurable in these three friends' appearances. And when I read that, I thought, wow, I feel like this whole time people have told me it takes 21 or 30 days to cultivate a new habit. And the truth is, when I try something new and I hit one of those milestones, 21 days or 30 days, and it hasn't totally changed my life, I feel really discouraged. And a lot of times I just give it up. And after reading this book, I thought, wow, it takes a lot longer than 30 days to do something big like this. And it really gave me a lot of hope. So I think for those of you who are struggling and you've tried a lot of diets, or you can't seem to manage the money in your household, you're spending more than you're making, or your body is just not strong and you're trying to create an exercise routine that you can fit into your life every day with your kids and your schedule and everything, I would really encourage you, instead of to just look to that 30-day mark, to think, okay, this might take 2 years, but man, is it worth it? I could be a really, really successful me in 2 years, and then for the whole rest of your life. And so it makes me think of a book that I really want to read. I've been reading about it, but I haven't actually read it yet. It's called The Miracle Morning by George Lorimer, and he talks about how depending on how big the habit is, it takes a short amount of time or a long amount of time. So he does say that a lot of small habits you can tackle in that 21 to 30 day range, but some of them might take as long as 250 days to lock down. And he says we all experience 3 phases when we're trying to start a new habit. So the first phase is unbearable. And I don't know about you ladies, but when I've tried to lose weight, the first phase, that unbearable phase, is absolutely that. It is so tough. And even though I've cried all the tears about my body and I want to change so much, it feels so difficult in that first phase. It feels hopeless. And I even, I'll turn to Jesus in that time and I'll pray and I'll say, Jesus, please help me, give me the strength. I know I can do anything with your strength. But it doesn't change the fact that it's really difficult in that first phase. But now I know that it's just a phase. And if I can make it through that, then I'll get to the second phase, which is uncomfortable. And even though that's not quite a good phase yet, it's better than unbearable. And you're making some progress. And, it may not come naturally to you to continue doing this habit, but stick with it, because Lorimer says, that you're in the second phase and you're almost to the third phase. And that third phase is called unstoppable. And I love that phrase because it brings up so much hope or joy for me that I could really crack a habit that I've been trying so hard to cultivate into my life. And I've done that already. I talk a lot about how many struggles I had 5 years ago as a stay-at-home mom with a new baby and not working and trying to take care of my house. And it all felt so overwhelming. And I had no systems and no habits. And I've really come a long way since then, but I still have a long ways to go. And I still have a lot of habits I would really like to incorporate in my life. And so I think Darren Hardy gives me a lot of hope that, I can do it. And it may take longer than 30 days, but if I stick with it, I'm going to have that compound effect. I'm going to see my graph go up and feel that success at the end of it. And so almost to the second point, before I get to that, I want to mention that Darren asks people to list their daily habits and then to identify which ones are positive, which ones are going to make your life better, and which ones are negative, which ones are really going to make you a grumpier, unhappy person in a couple years. And I think it's pretty easy for us to identify those. We may not want to think about it or dwell on it, but I think if you made a list, you'd be able to identify, which category your habits fall into. And so he says, identify the bad ones. And then here's the quote I want to pull out. Look again at your list of bad habits. How can you alter them so that they're not as harmful? Can you replace them with healthier habits? And ladies, I think this is so important because so many of us want to go cold turkey on something and just pretend like we can cut out bad habits and that's it and be okay. But the truth is we really need to replace bad habits with good ones. And I think there's two ways we can do this. I think we can find something similar. So let's say you want to give up coffee. Well, you can easily replace that with tea. And that's a pretty similar replacement. So you should be able to do that fairly easily. But then I think there's a second way that we can replace bad habits, and that's with something spiritual. And so, maybe instead of watching Netflix while your kids are sleeping at nap time, you really want to do something like pray your rosary. And that's a more difficult replacement, but I think that we can do difficult replacements when they're related to spiritual things. Because, I think when you pray your rosary, it's going to give you grace and it's going to give you strength. And you're going to feel so good about yourself after doing it. And that is another way I think we can replace bad habits. And even though it may not seem related, it's not like coffee and tea. I think it can give you that strength to push through and to do something else in place of whatever that bad habit was. And one of the things that I've been working on lately is instead of watching TV at night, because at night my mind is shot, it's sometimes hard to read books, and I just want to relax and do something that's really low key. But I was finding that television was making me feel really bad about myself. I don't know about you, but when I watch television, all of a sudden I think, I don't like my body, and I wish I had nicer furniture, and I wish my husband was more Hollywood romantic, and all of those things are so dangerous. And so I was realizing that this television was kind of making me feel bad about myself, but I didn't have anything to replace it with. And so what I started doing instead was watching YouTube videos. And really up until recently, I have not spent much time on YouTube at all, but I'm finding that you can watch YouTube videos about almost anything. And so I've been learning a lot through these videos, and it's still relaxing to me at the end of the day, but at the end of that time, I'm feeling so much better about myself. And I just want that for you. I want you to stop beating yourself up, stop having these toxic habits that are making you feel like less than the perfect woman that Jesus wants you to be. He just wants you to feel so wonderful about yourself because he loves you so much. And I think that sometimes our bad habits create these toxic thoughts in our minds, and so we just beat ourselves up all the time over it. So I'd really encourage you to fill out the worksheet on my website, make a list of those habits, and try to come up with some ways to replace them. And remember that first point, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to change really big habits. So the bigger the habit you're trying to change, give yourself more forgiveness. Give yourself more time to get it done. But stick with it, because you're going to see that graph go up eventually. You're going to have that compound effect, and you're going to feel that success. And it's going to make you a happier wife and a happier mom. And, I think that's really what I'm hoping to help you guys do with this show. So again, check out my website. You'll get to see that worksheet. You can print that off and fill it out. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of these videos, and connect with me on social media. If there's a way that I can be praying for you this week, please let me know. I would love to do that for you. And I am going to Mass a lot these days, and so I will bring your intentions with me. Thank you for being a part of Coffee and Pearls. Have a blessed day.